Hey everybody, this is Chris with Done Right Foundation Repair. I am the owner of the company. I've been in the foundation business for 30 years and 28 years of Done Right Foundation Repair. This is our first podcast. We have been talking to people about this, telling people about this. So today is our first day. So with all due respect, please bear with me. If I make any mistake, I'll do my best to recover from it. So most people want to know, Chris, why this podcast? What are you doing this podcast for? Well, the whole reason we are bringing this podcast to homeowners is to educate the community as a whole. Whether you're a homeowner, a business owner, you own a tree house, we want to educate you about the ins and outs of foundation repair. So, a little bit about myself. People say, well, what's your expertise? Did you go to college? Well, no, I did not go to college. But what I did do was I spent many years out in the field with a shovel in my hand, pushing piers, greeting customers, lifting houses, leveling houses, learning the different soils, the different areas, going to every class I could go to, and just educating myself throughout the years. And one thing we really we want to say thank you so much for the years in business and success that we have in the past and all the business we plan on doing in the future, because we could not have done it without you, the customer, and the public. So we just want to take a step back and let homeowners know the foundation business is very, very competitive. There's a lot of things that go on in the foundation business. And I can tell you right now, one 30-minute podcast is not going to cover not even a smidget of the things. We're going to educate you with our experience, with the hard knocks we've gone through. Most people say, have you ever made a mistake? Absolutely. We've made mistakes. We're not going to sit here and tell you that we have been spot on in 28 years of business and we've never had an issue, because unfortunately, some companies will say that they're the perfect company, that they've never had an issue. Well, unfortunately for us, at times, we've had some things that we've had to deal with, but in the end, it has been a learning process. And in the end, everyone came out happy and satisfied. So, with that being said, people want to know, well, what did you do before you got in the foundation business? Well, actually, I was a landscaper. I started out landscaping and had a great little business. But I found out that homeowners would often ask me if I could tear a deck out or tear a patio out because it was crooked and unlevel, and could I put some plants there? And I would ask them, well, why do you want to do that? And of course, their response is, well, my patio's unlevel, I just want to get rid of it. So I took on the challenge and started leveling patios. I mean, I found out that it was a calling. I really enjoyed it. Actually enjoyed it more than I did landscaping. And over a period of time, people would see me leveling patios. Then they'd ask me if I could level their front porch. Could I level their house? And it just grew and grew and grew. And believe it or not, that was back in the day when you had yellow page book this thick. It was extremely expensive to advertise in there. So I did very little advertising. Most of my work was referrals. This neighbor told that neighbor. You didn't have Facebook back then. You didn't have Instagram back then. It was all word of mouth. So sure enough, the foundation leveling business took over, and it wasn't long before the landscaping company was gone. So throughout the years, it was just a calling for me. I enjoy my work. I enjoy being out in the field working with the guys. As you can see, my appearance today, I have a t-shirt on, my hair's a mess. Well, that's because I've been out in the field leveling houses with my crew all day. I was on a skid steer a while ago, trying to repair a driveway. Turned out really great. I had to look at my watch, and then I realized, hey, I've got a podcast in 30 minutes. I don't have time to go home and change. So all I ask is you accept me as I am. I'm just a hardworking individual who wants to educate you, the homeowner. So fast forward, foundation industry has been very good to me. I've enjoyed it. I now have my two sons working for me. They've been working for me here at the company for a little over 5 years now. I can tell you, they were 5 and 7 when I started taking them out on job sites. And in all honesty, those two boys probably know more about the foundation business and industry than a lot of people who are actually company owners. And, we're a family-run business now. My wife runs the front office. My one son, Mason, great individual. He does all of our sales, inspections, contracts, negotiations. My oldest son, Reagan, bright young man, just said, Dad, don't want to go to college. I'd rather come help you. He helps me run the crews. I mean, without everyone here as a family, as a whole, it would be a pretty tough business to do by yourself. So for family, I am so thankful for the family that I have, greatest in the world. And, one thing about us is we treat every prospective contract from the time we pick that phone up and schedule the appointment to the time the job is completed. Our biggest goal is to make the homeowner feel like they are part of my family. It's not uncommon for me to get phone calls at 8, 9 o'clock at night on a Sunday from a customer. And the first response out of their mouth is, wow, I didn't expect, I can't believe you answered the phone. It's 8 o'clock on Sunday night. Well, my answer to them is, if my son called at 8 o'clock at night, you can bet your backside I'm going to answer that phone. So, we want everyone to feel like they're a part of Done Right Foundation Repair, because it's so important that you as the customer and consumer know everything about the company, know everything about the industry, because let's face it, if you have or have had a foundation repair, number one, your home is your biggest foundation repair, and your home is also your biggest investment. So you don't want to entrust that investment to just anybody. So real quick, Derek has a great question. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate you reaching out. He says, what do foundation companies overlook most often when doing a repair? Believe it or not, the most overlooked thing that foundation companies do when doing a repair, sprinkler systems. I cannot tell you how many times we have gone out to jobs after somebody has done a foundation repair and maybe things didn't go so good. So we went out, and I will tell you, almost every time we talked to a homeowner, their biggest frustration was they paid no regard to my sprinkler system. They tore out sprinkler heads, covered sprinkler heads, cut wires, and in the end, when I brought it to their attention, they just said, well, that's not our fault. You got to take care of it yourself. So that's one of the biggest issues that we run into. It sounds simple. It sounds minute. And you probably don't think that that has any effect or bearing on your foundation. But I can tell you, a sprinkler system with a missing head that's buried under 8 inches of dirt that's running on a timer throughout the week is bad news, because that will cause your foundation to move. So besides that, even if you haven't had foundation repair, I can't tell you how many times we go out to houses, homeowners have sprinkler systems, and the sprinkler systems are just a mess. There's heads missing, heads that are popped up. Customers say, well, I don't use that sprinkler system, haven't used it in years. That's one of the biggest mistakes a homeowner can make. If you have a sprinkler system, it's there for a reason. A lot of homeowners say, well, we're under water restrictions. I can't water my grass. If you have zones up next to your home and you're utilizing those zones to water around your home's foundation, then you're not watering your yard. You're protecting the integrity of your home. So we don't like arguments, and nobody likes arguments, but I will tell you, if someone pulls up and tries to write you a ticket for using your sprinkler system for watering your yard, I think that you would have a pretty good argument that, hey, I'm trying to protect the integrity of my home's foundation. I'm not watering my yard. But yeah, sprinkler systems are a big, big deal. You know, so back to our company, and I appreciate the question. It was a great question. So, you know, we at one time had 5 locations. I had a location in New Braunfels, San Antonio, Austin, Houston, and here in Marion. 5 locations. So we were kind of all over the place. And what we found was that trying to stretch ourselves the way that we were stretching ourselves was a bit much. So we stood back as a family and said, what can we do to really focus on and give consumers and customers and homeowners a really one-on-one, you can reach us at any time advantage? And we came to the conclusion that we actually closed our San Antonio office and we closed our Houston office. We still get phone calls from there. We still look at commercial projects, but we don't really do a whole lot of residential stuff because it takes away from the area that we're focusing on, which is San Antonio, New Braunfels, San Marcos, Kyle, Buda, and some of South Austin. One thing being in business as long as I have is that customers are frightened of foundation repair. They hear the word foundation repair and automatically they just start thinking, oh my God, I'm going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. Well, in some cases, that is true. However, if you catch your foundation movement in the beginning and you stabilize that structure in the area where it's moving, you're going to save yourself thousands and thousands of dollars. So I have a great question from Mrs. Vollmer. She says, hey, Chris, what are the first signs a homeowner should look for? Great question again. One of the first signs a homeowner should look for, and you hear this all the time, but it is absolutely true. Well, my door doesn't close, or my door is starting to stick some. But I notice when it rains, my door opens and closes real easy. Well, that's a sign right there. I mean, you have issues. Your foundation is already moving. So that's when you need to get somebody out there. Now, if you have a little hairline crack in the wall, I mean, just a little hairline crack, don't get alarmed. That doesn't mean your house is falling down. Most of the time, what we'll do is we'll have a homeowner take pictures of the front, back, and sides of the home and the crack itself. And believe it or not, many, many times homeowners are so scared because they see that little crack and they go into overdrive. But we're able to view the pictures, look at things that are going on, and then we will determine, hey, do we need to go out here and just, have a consultation with this homeowner? Or can we look at the pictures and maybe walk them through and say, hey, you need to step up your watering a little bit. The other signs of foundation issues, not so much as windows and doors sticking, or let me rephrase that. Not so much as windows sticking, because as we know, going through the seasons of change, we don't normally open and close our windows every single day. I can tell you right now, if I went home, tried to open one of my windows, it would probably be sticking a little bit because we've had rain, we've had wind, we've had dirt, all that stuff blows into the window, and it's a little bit hard to open sometimes. So just because you have a window that doesn't open easily doesn't mean you have a foundation problem. Sticking doors, that's a different story. If you see cracks in your mortar, more than just one crack, if you see multiple cracks, if you see cracks on the side of your foundation. Now, most houses that are built, say within the last 10 years, 15 years to present, most houses are constructed out of what's called post-tension cable. No more rebar. Everything's cable. You have cables that are stretched tight. Those cables are designed to flex. This soil is going to expand and contract. Believe it or not, your house is not just going to sit there and never, ever, ever move. As that soil expands, your house is going to lift. As the soil dries up and contracts, your house is going to go down. However, if you have a lot of this going on, eventually you got to do something to help ease that pain. That's when you need to call a foundation contractor. Be careful who you call. And we'll get into things as our podcast progresses. But one thing we want homeowners to know, we want consumers to know. And a lot of people, we take phone calls, and I can't tell you how many every week I get homeowners do not know the foundation repair industry is a unregulated industry. What does that mean? Well, what that means is there's nobody to answer to. So I could sack groceries at, local convenience store for the last 20 years and wake up one day with little to no experience and just run down, print some business cards out, buy a wheelbarrow and a shovel, and I'm a foundation man. But we'll get into that in another podcast another time. The whole purpose of today's podcast is to introduce myself to everyone out there and just let you know a little bit about me. And as I go through this, as I said, 30 minutes is hard to cram all that stuff in there. I am local to the New Braunfels area, and been pretty much raised here my entire life. I went to school down the street, and I have seen this town from San Antonio Live Oak to Kyle Buda. I have seen it's just house after house after house. I can remember as a young kid many years ago, not going to show my age, but it was quite some time ago. I remember that from New Braunfels to Austin, there was nothing. You stopped in San Marcos, got gasoline, and went to Austin. There was nothing. I-35, nothing on either side. This was before the outlet malls, before anything. So, we see, or I see so many subdivisions going in over and over and over and over, and it's just going to continue. I mean, the developers are not going to stop. You drive out and you see farmland everywhere. I guarantee you in 5 years, drive by that same farm, it's probably going to be gone. And I can assure you one thing, Done Right Foundation will still be here. And, I often use the term to homeowners, keep our number handy, because if you buy homes, you're more than likely going to have movement, especially if you buy in the areas that I was just talking about. As our business grows and continues to grow, most homeowners say, well, Chris, I see you offer a lifetime warranty with your jobs. And that's absolutely correct. On certain projects, piers, certain types of piers, lifetime transferable warranties come. And, that's great, but homeowners always say, well, what happens if something happens to you? And that's a really great question, because if you're going to spend on average $10,000 to $12,000 for a foundation repair, you want to know that warranty, that work that you just paid for, is going to be warranted, and there's going to be somebody there to take care of that. And let's face facts, I'm not going to be here forever. I mean, we all got to go sometime. But I guarantee you, my two sons who are in this industry and live, eat, breathe this industry like I do, Done Right Foundation Repair will be here. And generation after that, and the next generation, and the next generation. As long as they build them, we're going to be here. And that's always my answer to the homeowner who says, lifetime warranty. Well, is that your lifetime? No, it's not. This company will be here, as far as I'm concerned, forever. So, that's another thing about us. We get offers every week. The biggest thing is investment bankers. Investment bankers are coming in buying companies left and right. Roofing companies, plumbing companies, foundation companies. I get solicited at least 3 to 5 times a month. And I've had some fantastic offers to buy me out, but I always end up the same. This company is not for sale. Not now, not ever. I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into this company, and I'm not going to sell it to some slick talking investment banker who will probably close it down and dismantle it the minute that the paperwork's signed and the ink's not even dry. So as you can see, you know, I am a good business owner, and I love this business, and I love working with the public. I love working with foundations. I love being out working with my guys in the field, laying out the jobs, making sure they're being put in properly. And believe it or not, every job that we lift and level, I schedule those jobs in a way so that I can actually be on that job when the leveling is being done to ensure that that leveling is done correctly and ready for our structural engineer to come do his inspection so that we get a pass flying color. So I can honestly say there's not very many foundation repair company owners that you see out on the job site doing the actual lifting, leveling. And there's days where I'll clear my day out and you may find me down in a hole, digging a hole or driving a pier. Because one thing about me is working alongside individuals that work for you. You don't ever want them to feel or look at you like you think you're better than them, because I will tell you, I am no better than anybody out there. And I think it's very good and very helpful to earn the respect of your workers, because once you have the respect of your workers, that's when you've built and established a good, solid company. And you may ask, where am I going with this? Well, where I'm going with this is you as the homeowner should feel comfortable with the company that you hire. You should feel comfortable that once you sign that contract for your foundation repair, that you can sleep at ease at night knowing that your job is being done correctly. Because most of our customers are good, honest, hardworking individuals who don't have time to take a week or 10 days off to sit at home every single day and make sure that the work and the job is being done correctly. We just finished a job today in Luling. 2 school teachers, husband and wife. They contemplated on this repair. We went out to their house about a year ago. We didn't think we'd ever hear from them. They called us back and said, hey, it's gotten worse. We know we need to have the work done. I think we're ready to do something. So my son went out, reevaluated everything. We contracted with them. Their biggest thing is they wanted us to do the repair during spring break. The unfortunate thing is, as much as we need rain, just so happened we got the rain at that time. So we couldn't do their job during that time. But I can tell you they were a little bit uneasy, but when they realized how their project was going to be done and that myself or my son Reagan, one of us was going to be at that job site doing an inspection every day, When they realized that it was actually going to be me inside their house today doing the lifting and leveling, they were fine. They had the house open for me. And those folks got to do their day-to-day routine, which was teaching school, educating teenagers, and not have to worry about what was going on at their house. And we want you to feel that way also. We want you to feel comfortable knowing that your hard-earned money is going to be used correctly and accordingly to put your project in. And one of the things that I'll mention very briefly, because I'm going to cover a whole, another podcast on this. When we talk about hard-earned money that you have worked pretty much all your life for, and then you realize that you're going to have to spend some of that money to fix your foundation, because insurance companies, unless you have something in your insurance policy that's specific for foundation repair, they're not going to help you. So, you're looking at spending hard-earned money. And one thing about us, when you contract with us, we never, ever ask for a dime from the customer or the consumer until we actually show up out at your house to start excavating and doing work. And by that time, we've already got several $1,000s into your job that we've actually paid for. We've paid for your engineer. We've paid for all your permits. We paid for all your plumbing pre and post tests. So we actually have a lot of money in the game before you even are asked for any type of payment. And then we're not like a lot of our competitors who require 50% payment at the time you contract. 40% at the time that we start excavation at your home, with your remaining balance when we are 100% complete at the job site and your house is cleaned up. I don't know how much better you could get on that. We don't, I can't tell you how many times, and we get phone calls all the time from homeowners that they've contracted with someone. One of the first things they wanted was a big payment to even schedule the project. And guess what? The minute that check is cashed, gone. They can't get a hold of the people. Get a voicemail full. Number no longer working. So, that's one thing that we're proud of, that we have gotten ourselves to a point where we are financially stable enough that we don't need your money to finish the job down the street. And, that's just a big no-no in this business. But unfortunately, we see it happen a whole lot in this industry. Once again, as I said, the foundation business is unregulated. So you can start a foundation company, run it into the ground for a year or two, close up shop, and 24 hours later, you've started another foundation business under a different name. See it all the time. But, we're very thankful, and I have to apologize because today I know I'm kind of all over the place. I'm a little nervous. I've never done a podcast. It's something I've looked forward to doing. I've wanted to do it. We've talked about it, but it just recently came to light with Marcella at Wolverine. Great company. We love working with these guys. We've had so many different web companies, and they've all wound up the same. Send us a check every month, and you never hear from them, never get anything. But I can tell you, these guys have been absolutely great from the get-go. And it's ironic because they actually pitched to me if I would be interested in doing a podcast. And I said, I've thought about that. I've got so many different things I want to talk about. And it just, we've worked on it and here we are. So, as the podcast, goes on and on, every podcast we do, we're going to focus on, a certain thing. I think our next podcast that we do, one thing I want to focus on, and I mentioned it earlier, was about insurance. I'm not an insurance agent, but I've dealt enough with insurance adjusters and agents to state facts, not just things that I'm thinking of. I've dealt with them. But we also, you as the homeowner, we want to educate you on what you might not be aware of for the individual that you hire to come do your foundation repair. You may think they have insurance. They may advertise they have insurance when in reality, they may not have any insurance at all. And, God forbid something happen, because we all know what can happen if somebody gets hurt on your property. But we'll talk about that in another podcast. And that's probably going to be the next one we do, is the ins and out of the insurance industry in the foundation industry and the construction industry. Got so many things to talk about. Different types of piers. Most homeowners are not aware that there are a slew of different types of piers out there. And not some companies offer one type of pier. Well, that one type of pier may not be the pier for your house, but they'll try and convince you it is. Here at Done Right Foundation Repair, we're not going to sell you some nonsense that's not going to work on your home, that you're going to pay $10,000, $12,000 for, and 5 years later, you're going to have to call somebody and have it redone again. We're going to propose the right pier for the right repair for the area which your house is in. We're going to talk about plumbing. Most homeowners aren't even aware that foundation movement and plumbing movement, plumbing breaks, broken plumbing, broken drain lines, broken supply lines, all this comes into one deal. So luckily for us, in the last 5 years, 10 years, we've incorporated drain line repairs into our foundation repairs if they're needed or required. Now, we are not licensed plumbers, nor do we advertise as a licensed plumber, but we troubleshoot. We have cameras. We do inspections. We do drain field tests. All of these things that we need to determine, do we need to bring in a third-party licensed plumber to determine, is your pipe broken? Where is it broken? What do we need to do to fix it? And then we step back in and we do all the excavating and backfilling and engineering and permitting and things like that. But once again, these are just things on the podcast that are going to be coming up as we go. There's so many things. And as I said before, you have to excuse me if I get off track, because I tend to do that. My mind goes is always going 1,000 different directions at a time. Cost is a big thing. Cost is a factor in foundation repair. And I can tell you that we are one of the few companies that still will do some, now I stress some, in-house financing on a case-by-case basis. And that is a huge gamble that we take. But one of the reasons we do that is we know that you have a hardworking husband and wife out there who have at some point in time gotten themselves into a scrape, and they can't get help anywhere else. They've tried to get a loan, they've tried to get financed, and they just can't do it but their house has fallen down because it needs foundation repair. Many times I have had those homeowners, the husband, the wife, the son, the daughter, sitting right here in my office, and my wording to them is, okay, what do we need to do to get your foundation fixed? What can you afford? What can I do? How can we work this out? And, that's one thing about me, and one thing about our company also is you can come in here to our office and sit down and talk with me or one of my sons or my wife at any given time. Our doors are wide open any given time. And, just call us. Come in and sit down and talk with us. We're easy to talk to. You're not going to call an 800 number. You're not going to get a call center. And I will tell you, call some of the other foundation companies, the bigger companies, and ask to speak to the owner. And you're probably not going to get very far. But I can tell you, I'm always available. And if I'm not here, I'm out on a job site. So, we're very easy to work with. And, this podcast, we want people to ask us questions, because the only unanswered question is a question that doesn't get asked. And some people will say, well, I don't want to ask that. It probably sounds dumb. No, you may think it's dumb, but it may be the most important question that we get asked all day. And, once it's answered, then you have your answer. And I'm kind of funny. I try and joke around sometimes. And, if it's a dumb question, I might say, well, that's kind of a silly question. But, it's just making light of the subject, because, foundation repair is a serious repair. It's a serious industry, but we want to bring the stress factor. We want to bring it down some. And if we can do that in any way, that's what we want to do. And, as I said, we're always open to questions. This is our first episode, our first podcast. And hopefully we'll look back on this in a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. And I can tell everybody out there, man, look how silly I looked on there. But, I hope I've introduced myself to you. Remember, we are Done Right Foundation Repair. And that's the thing. We're going to make sure your foundation repair is done right the first time. And that's how I came up with this name. Not because it's a catchy name or catchy slogan, because that's the thing. You want it done right the first time. We have billboards in New Braunfels all over the place. Little bitty smiley happy guy waving to everybody. Right there it says Done Right Foundation Repair. And that's the thing, if you don't need us, maybe your neighbors need us. Maybe you saw us on the podcast and a friend, family member needs foundation repair, or is concerned that maybe they have some movement and they want to talk to us. Give us a call. We're easy to reach. Go to our website, donerightfoundationrepair.com. And, we've got some helpful information there. And one thing we're always open to, I'm always open to it, is, hey, if you have an idea that you think could better our podcast, if you have something that you think could, get people a little more interested, educated, you may go to our website and say, well, hey, Chris, you guys have a great website, but what do you think about maybe putting this on there? I mean, we're always open to suggestions. But, back to what I said, foundation repair industry, it's been good to me. It's been good to my family. I love what I do. My kids love what we do. Good company. We're not going anywhere. Been here a long time, long time. And as I said earlier, they just keep building, and we're going to be right behind them. Because one thing developers do is they don't spend much time on prepping the soil before they put the foundation in. I tell you, we've been inspecting houses lately that are less than a year old, and they have really, really, um, you know, bad foundations. Bad foundations. So I have a message from Stacy Paris. Stacy Paris. She says, it is so beneficial to reflect on the importance of hiring a reputable professional in the field. This podcast is such a valuable resource for homeowners facing foundation issues. Thank you. Well, Stacy, I say thank you. I appreciate you acknowledging that. And yeah, foundation repair is scary. And, education is key. My son, when he goes out and does an inspection, he's there to educate you. He's not there to sell you. If you get educated and you're comfortable and you choose to hire us to repair your foundation, we are flattered. We are thankful that you chose us to do that. With a lot of companies who are now going to commission-based salespeople, some of them have not even stuck a shovel in the ground, wouldn't even know how to drive a pier in the ground. And, they're there just to sell you a contract. But with us, we are there to educate you as the consumer. And many times we've been out to houses and looked at houses, and Mr. and Miss Homeowner say, well, hey, these other two foundation companies said I need 20 piers. My house is 1 inch out of level. They wanted me to sign a contract right now. And believe it or not, more times than not, we'll run elevations, look at the house, and we'll say, you know what? Unfortunately, I'm afraid that they gave you some misinformation, because at this point in time, you don't even need foundation repair. Most homeowners, give you for instance, real quick, I know that we're probably going to need to wrap up soon, but most homeowners are not aware that your home can actually be out of level 1 inch in every 20 to 30 feet. So if you have someone that comes in and says, oh, your house is 1 inch out of level, you need 10 piers, it's going to be $10,000. That's not always true. That's not always true. Many times we've gone out and the house is out of level, but it could be that you're not watering around your foundation enough. And one of the podcasts we're going to talk about is soil conditions. We have the biggest clay soil in the area, in the industry. And just like a sponge, when it dries and water hits it, it expands. Boom. Believe it or not, a consistent level of moisture in your soil around your foundation is key, because keeping a consistent level of moisture around your foundation keeps the soil swelled up and holds that foundation in place. But we'll have one of our podcasts will be on soil conditions, maintenance, things of that nature. I hope that we've educated you enough about Done Right Foundation Repair and myself that you are going to want to come back on every podcast that we do. We're setting our podcast up on a bi-weekly basis, every other Tuesday. 6 o'clock is when we're going to be, tuning in on the podcast. As I said, our next one's more than likely going to be about the ins and outs of, insurance. And, I'm not an insurance salesman. And if you do have friends or family that are insurance salesmen or in the insurance business, I encourage them to watch. I encourage them to see the hardships that having a claim denied can cause a customer. I encourage everyone to really listen to what I'm going to be talking about when it comes to insurance and the actual contractor you hire. Foundation repair is, you can't just run down and get just a basic general liability policy. Your policy has to be specific. And I'm not going to get off into all that right now because that's for a different show. But I appreciate you having me in. As I said, first podcast, I'm definitely nervous. I'm probably all over the place, but I hope that we've educated you some on the company and the person and the family behind the business. Because as a family owned and family run business, it's important that our family makes your family a little more at ease and feel at home. The the foundation industry is it has its ups and it has its downs. And I just wanted to take a second. I know we're wrapping up here pretty quick, but I wanted to take a second. I've been in this business a long time, and I met a gentleman about 20 years ago. His name's Greg Bauman. Great guy, all Texan foundation repair. I hadn't talked to Greg in many, many years, and recently in the last year, he and I started doing some business together. The guy knew everybody in the business. I mean, 61 years old. All Texan foundation repair. I don't know anybody who can say a bad thing about him. As the saying goes, he was a stand-up guy. If I ever had an issue or question, wanted to know about something that was going on in the business, Greg knew it all. I could call him, and recently we started doing a lot of x-raying. We x-ray slabs, and so Greg didn't have an x-ray machine, so we went and x-rayed his slabs for him. I did not know Greg was sick, but unfortunately, Greg lost his battle with cancer a couple of days ago, 61 years old. That's awfully young, but I just wanted I felt it to say something good about Greg. I know this podcast will get seen by other people in the industry, and we lost a good person. He was a good man, and he'll be missed. He'll be missed. And 61 years of age, that's awfully young. It makes you think, life can be cut short very, very quick. And, our hats off to Greg, and I know he's not suffering anymore, and he's definitely in a better place for sure. But, enough of that. We could sit here and reminisce all day long, but I'm not going to do that. But I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me here. I appreciate the questions and the time that people have taken to view the podcast and, our upcoming episodes that we'll be doing. And we'll always let you know at the closing, like for instance, we're going to be closing here pretty soon. Our next episode is, ins and outs of insurance with foundations and contractors, things like that. And, we're going to have guests on the show. We're going to have people that are, that's their profession. That's what they do. And we're going to ask them questions and vice versa. They ask us questions, and it's educating you, the consumer. It's, because there's a whole lot more to the foundation repair industry than, just a bunch of people showing up out at your house, throwing some jacks underneath your foundation, leveling the house and saying, see, there you go, see you later. There's a lot involved in it. There's a lot involved before you make a decision. There's a lot that you should know why that job is going on, things that can affect you, things that can affect your future, things that can affect your family. Education is key. As I made the statement earlier when I first got into this, that, I didn't go to college. I learned by doing. And that's the biggest thing in education. Classes. We go to Houston every month. We go to Houston, get educated. We meet with a group of engineers, structural engineers. We learn about these things. We learn about the soil. We learn about the different techniques. We learn about, benefits of new material that's coming out on the market. We learn about, why does a pier fail? New piers come out all the time. People patent new piers all the time. And, they're on the market for 4 or 5 years. And then for whatever reason, you don't really hear about that particular pier anymore. Well, we learn through education that particular pier didn't work. The failure rate was very, very high. There was a company, I'll give you for instance, there was a company probably 4 years ago. They went out of business, went bankrupt, filed bankruptcy. They came out with this great brand new pier. And, they did a lot of jobs. But unfortunately, within that short period of time they were in business, that type of pier that they came up with and developed, the failure rate on it was 90%. 90%. So, customers are paying to have this, best pier in the world. Hey, this pier has a patent on it, so it must be the best. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people found out the hard way that's not the case. Because that company is gone. They went bankrupt. You don't even hear about them anymore. And, getting back to the education classes we take, not long ago, that particular type pier was a topic, and how poorly constructed that pier was. And, that's the thing. If you don't keep up with the times, if you don't keep up with the education, if you don't know the people that are in the business, you get behind the times. And that's not good for the consumer, because let's face it, the consumer should always come first, period. That's the thing. Here at our company, Done Right Foundation Repair, we always want to put the consumer first. And, we're always open to suggestions. Structural engineer, and I know I've mentioned that word many times. That'll be one of our topics, structural engineers. A lot of foundation companies don't actually have a structural engineer come out and do a on-site inspection anymore. They just email a piece of paper, fax a piece of paper, The engineer stamps the drawing, looks at the drawing, says, yeah, that looks good to me. Here's your letter. Go get your permit. Never even come to the job. For us, that's different. I have an engineer, Couch Engineering out of San Antonio, Mike Couch, great guy. Been working with him for 25 years now. Mike was out at my job today, on the job, at the job, inspecting the job. Because I'm going to tell you, somebody that's gone to college and studied and, has that engineer degree, he takes that very seriously, and that's a valuable tool. So before he puts his stamp of approval on anything, he's going to want to put hands on, eyes on, feet on the ground, and he's going to want to see it. And that's one of the advantages that you have with us as well is, on-site engineers inspections. And, we'll have a topic on that. That'll be one of our topics also, the importance of inspections. So many people are misled. We had a lady earlier in the week. She had someone come out and look at her foundation and wanted her to contract. And the funny thing is, when she asked about inspections, the individual tried to convince the lady that inspections weren't required. This was in a major city here close by. And because we do a lot of work in that city, they have a little truck that drives around all over the place. It's called code enforcement. And if code enforcement pulls up and work's being done on a home where there is no permit pulled, no inspection scheduled, nothing, that job gets shut down. And a lot of the municipalities are now not just fining the contractor, they're actually fining the homeowner as well, because they're allowing an unlicensed project to be installed at their home. The lady had no idea that she almost put herself into a bad position. But, things like that, permitting process. Like I said, there's so many different areas that we're going to cover in the podcast as we go along, question and answers, permits. Do I have to have a license in the city? As I said, the foundation repair industry, it is unregulated. So there's nobody out there to answer to. But the thing that you got to keep in mind is, if you live in a city municipality, and I'll just say this, if you live in a city municipality, if you do any type of work on your home, whether it be foundation repair, roofing, put a fence up, doesn't matter. You have to have a permit. And that individual you hire should be registered with that city and have the correct insurance, the correct bonds, all the correct information so that they are current and registered, because those are things that protect you, the consumer. And once again, that's the foundation industry, but that's any industry. Okay, so we're going to wind this up, and we really appreciate you watching us on the podcast, and we thank you so much, and we look forward to the next podcast, which will be about insurance. So look forward to see you. Thank you so much.